Good afternoon. I was talking with a good friend of mine about where my journey began recently, and it kind of inspired me to do a video just going through my whole journey with them. And I figured some people may benefit from this video, although I don't resonate with some things that I'm going to share in this video. I'm going to share where my journey began and what has led me up to the point I'm at now. So not everything may resonate with you in this video, but if you can take some pieces from this and it helps you in any way, then that's awesome. Just going to share this out real quick. So my journey began, and if this video resonates, please share this to any groups or any people. I'm going to be dropping a lot of information and knowledge in this video. And one thing that I have told my friend when I was just realizing this was the fact that what's up, Jose? Alright, so my journey began with the topic of the shape of this earth. And I'm not sure how many people's journey began here, but my journey began studying the stars, the universe, space. I had owned every book from NASA, space, constellations, zodiacs. I was trying to get familiar with the stars, the alignments, space. My theory was that if we can, as a whole, figure out this where we are, the location, if we can figure this out, we will figure out the who. The who is existent in this where, this place. And so this is where I began. As of today, I encourage people to start with themselves. Before you inquire into the world, look into yourself. Because I feel like I skipped an important first step. But, like I say, all paths will lead you to the same place. So it truly doesn't matter where you start. There is no starting point, actually. And there is no ending point. That's the great catch of it. But point is, I began with the shape of the earth. The shape, the where, what is this? I wanted to dissect the where, the place, as much as I could. And I'm not going to mislead anyone here. A part of what fed my mind the idea that maybe we're not living where we think we are was the algorithms that Facebook brought. This flat earth topic and community blew up overnight about several years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. There was people setting their cover photos, their profile pictures with flat earth, flat earth, flat earth, and this movement just exploded across the internet. And if I wish I remember the exact year, but it was around 2015 to 2016. The flat earth movement just blew up, exploded. And so this is what began my journey. Is I started acknowledging stuff that we were taught maybe doesn't make sense. Something is wrong with this information. And this is where I began gathering information about the earth. And obviously, there was only top two presentations of the earth. We either lived outside of the ball or the earth was flat, according to the theories that we have out on the internet that were out at the time, in around 2015-16. I'm a realist, so I'm not here to fool anyone, to trick anyone, because I'm not trying to trick myself. I want the real deal. I wanted the real thing. I wanted the undeniable truth. I didn't want to have to try and find a bunch of answers or quotes or proofs to prove my point. I wanted to have the real thing and just know this was it. So just like with the round earth where we're outside of a ball, it didn't make sense to me. Things didn't add up. Certain answers don't make sense. Same with the flat earth topic. It made a little more sense. Okay, it answers some questions that maybe can't be answered on the outside of the ball, but there was still errors, there was still discrepancies, there were still problems with this model. And like I said, I wanted the real thing. So while some people stopped their search and just were happy with this is flat and that's it, I know where I'm at, I was unfulfilled. I was very unsatisfied, because just like religion, children start inquiring into religion, and the more you start realizing that the answers your parents are giving you don't make sense or don't add up, the deeper you start scratching at the surface and inquiring, the harder you start persisting in your search, because you know you're getting somewhere. Things are not adding up here. And so my journey went from looking into the flat earth to knowing 100% this model was not correct. This model had left out a lot of information. And as I said, there was only 2 models at the time, up until the point that I'm about to share. There was only one man sharing concave earth material, which is concave or hollow earth material, at the time, and his name was LSC, who's now in prison for threatening the president. They tried to make him a little more loony than he was, because he thought the earth was concave and he was trying to prove that, but he was the biggest name behind this movement. But however, he lost credit, he lost people's attention, because the first thing he started out his videos with was, I am God. You must worship me. You must bow to me. I am above you. You must worship me. So instantly, people were disengaged. They would turn off the video. They didn't want to hear any of that nonsense. Done. So he was the most popular person at the time putting out concave material for those who would stick around long enough to hear what he had to say beyond the I am God, you will worship me. So a lot of his videos made sense because he was a flat earth believer before. And so all of the answers that you didn't understand in the flat earth model, he had somewhat answered in this model. And so it was a better model than the flat earth. However, there were still discrepancies. There was still things missing, still things that were left unconnected. And this is where my story begins truly. After LSC, because again, he was discredited after going to prison and after all his videos of telling people to worship him and that he is God. He was completely discredited. So after his name was lost, concave earth, hollow earth had nobody sharing this material, had nobody putting out any new concave earth material. And so this is where myself and my brother Gemini, which I still have as a friend today, he's probably one of my greatest friends, but I love him with all my heart. We were the only 2 people during this time, 2015-16, putting out new information on concave earth, sharing new discoveries, new details, new comparisons that had never been put out before. And this is where a lot of my following began. Right here. For the people who were flat earth dominantly but knew certain things didn't make sense, I connected those dots. And the most simple way you can destroy the flat earth model, and again, it's not about who's right or wrong here. This is a matter of, are you self-fulfilled? Are you satisfied with your answer? Because if you are, there's no need for me or anyone to try and sway you different. But if you know something isn't right or something's not adding up, this information may help you. But the one thing that absolutely shatters a flat earth is knowing the fact that everything is a torus field in itself. Every single thing that is solid that we experience is a field of energy in itself, is a torus field. So what that means is you would have to directly dive into the torus field, the study of a torus field, the propagation of light inside of a torus field. These are insanely vital components that the flat earth ignores. If everything is a field of energy, we have to acknowledge and study the light propagation that's being manipulated inside of this field. And this is where, if you had a ferrocell would show you what the naked eye could not see. So this is me here, and this is my own ferrocell, and this is the result. This is not my picture, but I was trying to do basically the same thing that was done in pictures. This was a ferrocell, but they weren't trying to make a connection to the concave earth, meaning we're inside of a ball, not outside, and that light is bending around the torus field. That's how light truly propagates. Light does not act in a straight line. Light is a coaxial circuit, meaning it begins and ends in the same place. It's not actually traveling, and that's what was so vital about this and about Tesla's plasma ball, was it appeared to have multiple plasma filaments around the ball, but ultimately there was only one light source. And that's what the concave earth model, from my perspective, was proving. The fact that there is only true one light source, one consciousness, one being, and it's what we're calling God. It's the ultimate. And so what the concave earth model did, or what I did, was I took the source, that central point, and it takes it back and puts it back into the center. All life begins at the center. The void, from the womb out, always begins at the center point. The woman is the womb, is the center point, is the center of the universe. But we are told that the woman is birthing humans when she is not. She is birthing an entire universe. She is birthing an entire earth, because earth is not a physical place. And that's what the hollow earth slowly proves when you're honest in your discovery. Hollow earth is just the tipping point of the iceberg, but then you study quantum physics and it pushes you over the edge from which you can't get back over. The point of no return. Once you have seen it, there's no going back. And that's kind of what our U.S. government has figured out, that we think they're lying to us and it's some dirty game, but it's truly not. If we were honest with ourselves, we would know that we simply cannot handle what they know today. We would not be willing to wake up tomorrow and go to work, to drive our cars, to exist in a human existence. So they are slowly releasing details that they've discovered 60 years ago to us, to prevent us from panicking, from rioting, from freaking out, from losing our minds. We don't understand the beauty of them slowly releasing things, because if they laid it all on you today, people would be running in the streets screaming, losing their minds, going crazy. Again, nobody would wake up for work tomorrow. The corporations and everything tomorrow would fail. Everything that we know would fail. What the U.S. government knows began with the German Nazis. But back to my point on a torus field. How you understand that nothing can be flat is by understanding a true torus field. And both of these diagrams are from Ken Wheeler. But what he shows you is the converging force and the diverging force inside of a magnet. And that's what this torus field is. It's electromagnetism. You have a diverging force, which is your out force, your birthing force, and you have a converging force, which is your sucking in force, your death. So you have life and death. You have a radiance, and you have a what's it called? A returning to the source. An inhale and an exhale. In breath, out breath. But what exists here on the flat plane of inertia, this green disk right here, is the flat dielectric plane of inertia where the flat earthers say that we live inside of a torus field. This is the torus field, and this is the plane of inertia that they say we live on. But again, if you properly understand the physics behind a torus field, you will understand that no thing has matter here. No thing can have mass here. So what that means is if we lived here, nothing would have a shape, nothing would have a form, nothing would have mass. Yeah? It's magnetism that gives us our mass. And that's what these yellow lines are. These are your diverging force. Your centrifugal diverging force. And that's what's holding us to the inside of this ball. Or with this model, I should say, because again, I don't subscribe to this model anymore. But when you understand the torus field, that is the explanation for what's keeping you inside of a ball. If we're inside of this ball, how do you remain pressed up against it? Well, have you ever seen a sealed system that's pressurized? You can stick anything to the inside of a surface when there's pressure. And this explains why the deeper you go into the ocean, the greater the pressure gets. And if you go so far down to the ocean, your head would explode. Because the pressure is so great and so significant from the centrifugal force that's pushing out, away from the central point. So again, these are two major components to understand magnetism and electricity better, dielectricity better. Ken Wheeler is where you want to begin. But see, what this does is it puts the center point, that puts the creator back at the center. It returns the source back home. See how the center point is always in the center? That's our belly button. And from the belly... All right. We had a short intermission there, just to process the information. We're going to return to it now. So man stretched out from his center point, the belly button, stretched out with the arms and legs equals a circle, because we are the circle and the circumference, which was always sacred in ancient depictions. They depicted the dot and the circumference as a very sacred symbol. The dot and the circumference was a very sacred symbol to a lot of our ancient cultures. And that's because we are the dot and the circumference. What this represents is the dual principle, man, God, body, earth, inside, outside, when the two become one. And this was from Logian 22, the book of Jacob. Or I'm sorry, the Gospel of Thomas. I get that wrong every time. It's the Gospel of Thomas, Logian 22. And the chapter is called When the Two Become One. Taken out of the Bible, people. Why is that? Why would you remove that from the Bible? Logian 22. When the two become one. I'll tell you why they took it out of the Bible, because this is considered esoteric knowledge. This is what birthed the Freemasons. Only the Freemasons have been associated with the Illuminati and all these crazy people who are having plots to destroy the world and do all these things. Like it or not, the Freemasons derived from people rejecting this knowledge. Before the Freemasons were even known to anybody at all, they attempted to present this knowledge to the people. And guess what happened? Just like you, they were rejected, laughed at, criticized, turned away, and said, "You are an idiot. You don't know anything. The schools are teaching you everything. Why are you even creating this doctrine? It serves no purpose." They were laughed at and rejected. So what happened? They, instead of distributing this knowledge to the world because they already tried, it turned into an esoteric doctrine. Esoteric means secretive, not for everyone. The Freemasons are not bad. They attempted to deliver this message and this knowledge and were rejected, turned away from society. So they became a secret society, one in which people had to come to them for their information instead of them coming to you. What the Freemasons know is themselves beyond limitation, at least the Master Masons. What they know is themselves as God in the flesh. They don't look to skies or to stars or to alignments for guidance or to know what to do. They know themselves, so deeply so that they know that their very eyes are in the cosmos. What's flowing your blood is turning the stars. And it's not a metaphor. This is literal. Your being is not contained to a body, to an identity, to one form. But that's the comfortable dream that we exist in through the ego. That's the comfortability we exist in day after day, going to work, coming home, and feeling unhappy because we have yet to penetrate into our core of who we are. This is what the Freemasons know, and they're not keeping it from anyone once again. Just like you are trying to share your information with the world, but what's happening? You're being rejected and laughed at and turned away from people who are not ready. That's what the Freemasons are. They were trying to awaken people. This is what Jesus was doing. He was trying to give people the instructions of how to drink this elixir. But what happened? They instead worshipped the teapot. Instead of the beautiful elixir that he offered them, they turned to the teapot and bowed before it. So all of this is our own negligence. We're making the Freemasons bad. We're making Jesus bad because we think they're keeping us from ourselves. No, we are keeping ourselves from us. We are afraid of ourselves. The greatest conspiracy is not with you and the world. It's with you and yourself. And this is why the Freemason and Rosicrucian motto is Omnia ab uno, which means all from one. And this is what the Freemasons know alone, that we think is so great. We think the Freemasons know something that's just going to instantly transform us and everything, but it's not. What they know is what we already know, but again, we are not ready to break our comfortability. We still want to wake up and go to work and be existent in this place of mind. And I'm not saying once you awaken and know the self, you don't have to go to work and exist. But again, when the two become one, you attain the sovereignty. That's from the Gospel of Thomas. So when the body and earth become one and the same, when the inside principle and outside principle become one and the same, when the who and the where, which don't exist anywhere but the mind, when the who and the where are realized as the very same mind, the very same presence, which means wherever your presence is, you bring the who, you bring the where. There is no place and there is no person beyond the mind. That is what quantum physics proves. And that's why Niels Bohr said, if you get to a point in quantum physics where it doesn't scare the out of you, you're not understanding it properly. Because quantum physics can be very cool, very neat. However, terrifying. Because what it directly proves is you are the only one seeing your reality. You are the only one that's experiencing what you see, what you directly take in from your senses. You will never be able to show or allow someone to hear what you hear or see what you see. Because again, quantum physics proves the seer and what's seen are one and the same. What's heard and what's hearing are one and the same. So what this means is when you discover this, there is no one to share this with. Meaning, there's no one I can give this experience to. I see myself in all things, but I can't give you this experience. You will never see yourself as I see myself. You will never hear yourself as I hear myself. Because again, our own self-awareness is attached to it. So we're not seeing other people, we're seeing ourselves in accordance to our own self-awareness. We're not hearing other people, we're hearing ourselves in accordance to our own self-awareness. That's why we can hear the same story and all of us will get something different from it. We can be told that there is a God Almighty and the God is one, but the mind automatically will paint a different picture, different definition, different form, different everything through every single one of you. Because you are the one itself taking shape, taking form, but you are not the forms that appear. You are the one itself knowing itself through the forms which construct to destruct. It is through the destruction of these forms that you are meant to recognize yourself as what has never been constructed, and so can never destruct. We have the duality to recognize ourselves beyond this duality. And this is what destroyed the concave Earth model for me. My argument was dominantly, we are on the inside of a ball, not the outside, right? So I was still existing in duality. I was still seeing the duality. I was literally telling everybody on my videos, all is one, all is one, all is one. However, I would go right after that sentence and say, we are inside of a ball. But if all is one, where is the inside and where is the outside? Where does the inside begin and where does the outside begin? So, if all is one, who is determining if I am inside or outside? Ding, 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 ding. The awakening has begun. There is no inside. There is no outside. And that's what we're doing as human beings. We're choosing one side of the brain over the other side, instead of merging the brain into the single unity where the split takes place. We're split down the middle, and we choose one side or the other. We're man, we're a human, so we choose the left side over the right. And we chase the right side of the brain through God. Alice in Wonderland, chasing the white rabbit. There was no white rabbit beyond Alice. So again, we're the human, chasing our higher self, God. We're Alice chasing the white rabbit into oblivion, only to discover there is no white rabbit. There is no God. There is no God in the form your mind has gave it. There is no God in the definition your mind has gave it. There is no God in the sense that your mind is creating it. God has never been created. And if you are creating or adding features to what you call God, it is everything but what is. That is the chaos of what we call God. There is no start and there is no end. Nothing has ever began. And so nothing can ever end. This is why us being human reveals us to ourselves. Being human is nothing but a dream. And you can awaken from that dream right now in this very moment. That is what made Buddha so famous and solidified as the enlightened one. He awakened from the human dream to realize what was beyond death. Because again, if you have begun as an identity, you must be present to witness the destruction of this very identity. You must be present. You don't skip death with you not being present. You must endure what you call death, the loss of this identity. Why? Because you have constructed it. You have given these memories a name and attached an identity to this mind. And the louder it speaks, the more it speaks as this identity, as what you call myself. But again, the seer and what's seen are one and the same. There is no inside or outside. And so I'm going to share some information with you. Everything I'm about to share right now is factual. So you can do your research, you can look them up yourself, I encourage you, especially if this sparks your interest or your curiosity in any way, I encourage you to look this up for yourself, because all the documentation, paperwork has been released, declassified, released to the public. So again, this is our negligence. Everything has been released. We have the future on our fingertips, literally. We have everything that we could possibly need right here at our fingertips. And we're neglecting this. So as I said, Hollow Earth and UFO technology did not begin with the United States of America. It's even been proposed that the Russians started UFO technology, and this is incorrect. The Soviets did not start UFO technology. The Germans, the Nazis in particular, started UFO technology, but this work was beginning 15 years before the Nazis were given the name Nazis. Before the Nazis were given any name at all, any symbol at all, before the Nazis were even known, 15 years prior, the Germans were working on hovercraft technology through the Thule Society, Thule, Thule Society, and the Vril Society, Vril, Vril Society. And it was these two secret societies that they were using to construct UFO technology. I have a quote here from one of their... Here it is. The Nazi Secret Space Program, Anti-Gravity Craft, Black Sun, and the Vril Society. So, the Vril force, or Vril energy, was said to be derived from the Black Sun, a big ball of prima materia which supposedly exists in the center of the Earth. In the center of the Earth. And when you look at this model, everything matches. And I want you to be aware, these boards that I made were solely to prove the concave and hollow Earth. So everything in these pictures was connecting to hollow Earth, to concave Earth. So that's why all these pictures are here, to kind of help give you visuals of the concave Earth theory. Terziska maintains that anti-gravity research began in Germany in the 1920s with the first hybrid anti-gravity circular craft, the RFZ-1, constructed by the Vril Society. In 1942, remember that year, 1942, a series of anti-gravity machines culminated in the giant 350-foot-long, cigar-shaped Andromeda space station. 1942, right? Alrighty. 1942, same year. Now, all these pictures that I made, or that I wrote on these, and I wrote the year, and I put them in order. And again, I did this about 5 or 6 years ago. So all these pictures here, I wrote the event and I wrote the year underneath it. Okay? So 1942, the Germans confirmed their first hovercraft possible through the Vril Society, right? 1942, the Battle of Los Angeles took place. And this is what the newspaper, this is an actual newspaper article from this event. I'm going to read the headline for you. Searchlights and anti-aircraft guns comb sky during alarm. You may have heard of the movie Battle of Los Angeles with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. In this movie, they make the Battle of Los Angeles all about aliens, all about these foreign and creepy looking things, right? From my theory, this movie was made to take away from the actuality of what happened. 3 months after World War II, 3 months after World War II, after the United States sent ships over to Germany, because remember, a lot of countries started turning on Germany, but 3 months after the United States also turned on Germany and started sending naval ships and aircrafts over there, machines or helicopters, Blackbirds, all type of crazy things. 3 months after that, this happened, the Battle of Los Angeles. And my theory is the Germans were trying to flex their muscle and show us this is what we are up to. This is what we're doing. This is what we have. And it was just a little warning. Like, if you want to come over here and mess with us, if you want to come over here and do this, this is what we got. They were flexing their muscle, trying to show them. And this very much did entice the U.S. government because, again, they could not figure out for the life of them how these hovercrafts were moving so fast in the blink of an eye. This was beyond them. This blew away the United States government because at the time, we've always been in charge. We've always been the dominant force of this world. So this absolutely terrified our government. This sent them on a scattered chase. They did not know where to begin. And so the first initial theory was this was the Soviets, the Russians that were doing this. But they were wrong. So the Battle of Los Angeles, there were hovercrafts all in the skies, and this was in Los Angeles. They called in, I think, over 6 to 10 floodlights, spotlights that point to the sky, and that's what you see there. They shine these lights all in the skies, and it said they emptied over 1,000 rounds into the sky and hit nothing. They brought Army and Navy tanks to the middle of Los Angeles, to the middle of the city. And oh, I forgot to mention something. The field from the hovercrafts were so great, so powerful, it blacked out the entire city. I forgot that. That's a key component. So here you have Los Angeles, one of the most crowded and populated cities of that time and still today, with UFOs, lights just freaking flying back and forth and everyone freaking out, going insane. And so in the middle of the city, you have Army, Navy, Marine, with lights pointing at the sky and them on machine turrets just dumping bullets into the skies. People were in a panic. People legit did not know if this was the end of the world, if aliens were coming, if something crazy was going to happen. And like I said, even our own government were panicked in this moment because this was not anything that they have ever seen. So fast forward to 1944. Again, these are in order, numerical order. So 1942, they let us know we've got hovercraft technology. We've got, alien technology. We have technology that's beyond your capability. 2 years later, 1944, map to inner Earth is, I wouldn't say released, because this wasn't released to the public. This got leaked out by a insider German who obviously had the map. This wasn't shared with the public. This was leaked. But many people have tried to discredit this and everything, but it gives you instructions. You can research and download all these pictures and apps yourself. It gives you instructions in German and in English. Instructions, it gives you coordinates, and guess where they were going? Map of the inner Earth. Guess where the entrance to the inner Earth was according to the map? Antarctica. Which is why on the corner of the map you see Antarctica here. Antarctica, the bottom of the Torus field, right? The bottom of the Torus field. Again, we're going to get back to the Torus field because, again, I covered that previously. A Torus field has converging and diverging forces. Everything that has mass is a field of energy. So our bodies is a field of energy in itself, which means we have a converging and diverging force. In, out. So not just with our breath, even with the naked eye, you're a force of energy. Your Torus field starts at your feet. Your feet take in your energy through the bottom. That's your converging force through your field. And your diverging force comes out the head, out of your crown. Right? So the bottom of the Torus would be converging in. Your in force. And that's why they went to Antarctica, the bottom of the Torus field, the bottom of the map. And again, you can look this picture up if you want to see it closer. It gives you coordinates. It is literally so specific, it would make you go crazy. It gives you direct coordinates. Go to these coordinates, pitch your nose, and again, you have to be familiar with the submarine craft, so it speaks in submarine terms, which I don't know. But it says, pitch the nose at this angle, dive down at this angle, and go to these coordinates. And it's so specific. You have to have done it to know this is true. This has actually happened. And if you're skeptical that this has happened, let me continue. So the next year, 1944, fast forward a year. 1945, Operation Paperclip. Many people are familiar with this now. Many people are familiar with this. The history of the secret program to bring Nazi scientists to America during and after World War II. During and after World War II. Why were we after their scientists? Why? 1942. Because 3 years prior, they flexed their muscle to us and showed us we have hovercraft technology. We're showing you what we're capable of. You don't have this. So what did we do? What did we do? We'll take that. We'll take that, please and thank you. We'll take that with a side of gravy. So we took their hovercraft technology. We took all their scientists, right? And that operation lasted until 1959, but again, it began in 45, so 3 years after they showed us they had hovercraft technology. And now here's your proof. Here's your proof that we ourselves, the United States government, has confirmed that this whole German operation was true. 1945, so 45. We brought some scientists here. We were gathering some information. We were collecting intel on what the Germans were doing in Antarctica. Because again, this map was released to the public. And again, it wasn't released, it was leaked to the public. So who do you think the first people that had their hands on this was? The United States government. And the first thing they did was question, what the F are they doing down here and why? So if we take their scientists and get more intel, we can find out exactly what they're doing there and why. So, a year later, 1946, Operation Highjump. Operation Highjump. The United States Navy Antarctic Development Project, 1947. And this went from 1946 to 1947. A whole year of us studying Antarctica. So coincidental. Why would we study and go to Antarctica a year after taking Germany's scientists, 2 years after finding out that they released a map to inner Earth, and 5 years after they've invaded Los Angeles with hovercraft technology? You can do the math for yourself, I'm sure. Operation Highjump. So, Operation Highjump was said to the public, we were sending troops there for scientific research. This is my own writing from 5 years ago, my writing on Operation Highjump. It was said to the public we were sending troops there for scientific research and purposes, yet sent 4,700 men, 13 ships, and 33 aircrafts. Many at the time found it strange and very suspicious, but nobody knew about Germany's knowledge or willpower as of yet, but the United States government, which tried their best to keep it in secrecy. They knew the Germans were already heavily present at the pole and only got the idea from this operation through leaked evidence. Once we got wind that they had UFO-like crafts, we were following their every move. Admiral Byrd led the operation for the United States when going to Antarctica and spoke of seeing the land beyond the poles. In quotations, he has seen the land beyond the poles. That's from our own admiral, from the Navy. They were in search of an entrance inside the Earth or the German base in Antarctica, which was Base 211. Byrd wrote in his diary he had discovered entrances to a vast hollow Earth in which lost civilizations lived with technology beyond his comprehension. He even documented the moments they entered the South Pole and disappeared from radar as well as radio communications. The navigation instruments were spinning like crazy and the gyroscope was oscillating back and forth like never before. According to him, he was forced to land by hovering crafts that had speeds he didn't know existed, and they told him to come back and warn our race of our nuclear bombs and war. And this is from Admiral Byrd's book, his autobiography written by himself. So he was forced to land, and he wanted them to warn our race of our nuclear bombs and war, that we had unleashed a technology that was not meant for us, and that we were abusing it so bad that they may soon intervene. Byrd was, of course, ordered to remain silent and tell no one of his findings or expedition, which is why he resorted to this diary. It began as a diary, a very secret diary, which obviously got leaked again. So, that was Operation Highjump. At the time, 1946, they were telling the public, we're going to study Antarctica, but it's for scientific research, not to worry. No worries at all. We're studying for weather conditions and weather for this and that. Bunch of nonsense, right? Anything to pacify the people at the time. But it was slowly confirmed and leaked that we sent 4,000 men there. 33 aircrafts, 13 ships carrying 33 aircrafts. That's not asking for a war or showing you that they took heavy precautions for enemies, then I don't know what is. That's not scientific research, right? So that was 1946 to 1947. Then you have 1955. So obviously, about 7-8 years later, right? Operation Deep Freeze, 1955 to 1956. A City Under Snow. Now, this is what I wrote on Operation Deep Freeze. Admiral Byrd returns to rebuild and establish more U.S. bases in Antarctica. Many of the bases underground were collapsing with snow. So we were going there to reestablish and rebuild our bases there. And that was, again, 1955, the city under snow. We were building bases underground, basically, in Antarctica. 1955 to 1956. 1959, the Antarctic Treaty system was formed, with just about every country in the world signing into this treaty. Now, I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, but there has never been one single treaty that is respected and upheld by every country in the world. But what if they knew that if you were to let off a bomb near this Torus field, it would be the end of our civilization? Obviously, they wouldn't harm themselves. But again, it shows you how out of touch we are with ourselves, because yourself is not contained to just a body. Everything here is yourself. And that's why the indigenous native tribes were so much smarter and in tune. They knew who they were. There was no greed. There was no competition, because who are you in competition with? The reflection you see over here is yourself. The reflection you see over here is yourself. Why would I need to put on a name brand pair of shoes or a $200 belt for you to see me or you to see me if you are me and you are me? Who am I putting on this show for when everyone becomes myself? Once I realize that you're not seeing me, you're seeing the reflection of yourself. You're seeing me from your own self-awareness. So when you judge me, you're not judging what is seen here, you're judging yourself from your own self-awareness. Again, that's quantum physics. The seer and what's seen are one and the same thing. You're only judging yourself. But this is very suspicious, and especially if you know the history of Antarctica, this shouts to you the answer. They've figured out, again, Admiral Byrd in Operation Highjump came back to them, reported everything. So they went from having a map to inner Earth to actually having a man inside. Would not be possible without the Nazis, without the Germans. Would not be possible. We followed the Germans into the Earth, and that is where the whole hollow Earth concept began. The Antarctic Treaty, I greatly recommend that everyone looks into this, because again, how many treaties are upheld by that many countries? Some of the countries featured in here have even been at war with each other. But they admire, they respect this treaty. Makes you think. So in 1959, only 12 countries were signed into the treaty. By 1961, the treaty was entered into force. Okay, and here's another thing I'm going to say. Good point. I'm reading my text. This is everything I've written 5 years ago on this whole topic, so I'm just trying to pick what I'm going to read here. What's important and what's not. Okay, so months before the outbreak of World War II, Nazi Germany sent a small expedition to Antarctica. And this is my belief. Everything that I've said prior to this is factual. You can look it up, you can prove it, you have the dates, you have the times, you have all the artifacts. It's all been declassified. What I'm about to say is my own opinion now, okay? This is my opinion. So, a few months before World War II, Germany sent a small expedition to Antarctica. It's my belief Hitler was on board this ship to Antarctica. Hitler was on board. And what I wrote in there is every single world leader, from Bin Laden to Fidel Castro, has had doubles, meaning 10 people he has disguised to look exactly like him, right? So for security purposes, right? But American researchers have demonstrated that the skull fragment, secretly preserved for decades by Soviet intelligence, belonged to a woman under 40 years old, whose identity is unknown. So the skull that they collected and that they said was Hitler's was proven to be that of a woman, which means Hitler was never found. Hitler disappeared off the face of the earth. And once again, when you do research on this, you know exactly what happened. You know Hitler has not died. Hitler has not gone anywhere. He's not hiding somewhere. He went into the inner earth, the hollow earth. And again, you can call me crazy all you want, but until you have researched this, I'm not so crazy. All the facts are there. This is a book called The Gods of Eden, and it talks about Hitler in the concave earth, basically. Hitler and his mystical patriots had a curiously inverted view of the universe. To their way of thinking, the universe consists of infinite rock, which is broken by numerous hollow areas. In other words, the universe is like an infinite piece of Swiss cheese, solid with many holes in it. The concave surfaces of the hollow areas are the surfaces of planets, including Earth. Humans are therefore not living on the outer surface of a round ball. They are being pushed by gravity against the inner surface of a hollow area. Now, you read that quote right there. Humans are therefore not living on the outer surface of a round ball. They are being pushed by gravity against the inner surface of a hollow area. You take that quote and look at the Nazis' famous black sun symbol. This has been made to represent white power and evil and white supremacy. This has nothing to do with white supremacy. This has nothing to do with racism. But just like the Nazi symbol, the Nazis hijacked the symbol of the swastika, which belongs to the Hindus. They're taking these knowledges, these symbols, and they're distorting them. So if you see a person walking with this, he will be labeled a racist. And I'm not saying that these symbols should be worn or flagged or nothing like that, but what I'm saying is they're not evil in any way. There's nothing racist about this symbol right here. It has been made into something like that, maybe. This is giving you the freaking answer. You have your converging force, which is pushing out. You have your diverging force, which is converging in. It's converging and diverging at the same time. And there's your ball of prima materia. Remember, you read the thing on the German Secret Space Force. It's right here. The Vril force was said to be derived from the black sun, which supposedly exists in the center of the earth. In the center of the earth, yeah? This force was known to the ancients under many names, and it's been called Chi, Ojas, Vril, Astrolight, Odic forces, and Orgon. You see? So what Nikola Tesla called the ether, the Nazis called Vril force. And it was produced by a ball of prima materia at the center of our earth, is what they said. Now look at their black sun logo, and this ball right here would be that ball of prima materia that they're calling source. Right? And then you look at this, and it's the same thing. You see your ball of prima materia here, which is your source, and then it has your converging and diverging forces pushing out. So again, just like what it says, they are being pushed by gravity against the inner surface of a hollow area. For example, an attempt was made to locate the British fleet during World War II with infrared rays pointing toward the sky. The Nazis believed that the rays would hit the opposite side of the concave earth. But again, that's vital. Why? Because you have to understand true light propagation. So what that says is they believe that the light rays would hit the opposite side of the concave Earth. But if you understand how light truly propagates inside of a torus field, you would see how this is not possible. You cannot shine. Let me find where it's at. Okay. You cannot shine a light into the sky and have it be seen from the other side of the world, even if you're inside of the ball. Why? Because all light bends inside of a torus field, as you can see. So you see how this yellow line right here is slowly being bent toward what we would call the sky. So this is what you would call your horizon. When you're standing here looking out at an ocean, you think you're looking at a flat distance that's flat. Obviously, your eye is not going to pick up the actual curvature of the light propagating and being bent and manipulated by the electric field. You're not going to pick that up with your naked eye. So, when you're looking at a beach or a horizon, it appears to be flat all the way across. And that's why when you zoom in a telescope, it's always going to come further, closer and closer and closer, appearing flat. You will never witness this phenomenon, light bending, before your eye. You need what's called a ferrocell. F-E-R-R-O cell. C-E-L-L. Which is simply a light like this that you place a magnet under, and this is a tool that allows you to study magnetism. This is a tool that allows you to see what the naked eye cannot see. So for instance, if you turn the ferrocell off, meaning all these lights turn off, and you place the magnet here, you're not going to see anything at all. You will just see the magnet. But you place the magnet here and turn the lights on, and boom, you instantly have this pattern right here being produced all by itself. You do nothing. This is produced all by itself. A perfect geometric shape through a magnet. Through a magnet. And again, this is my own picture here. This was my ferrocell. I'm holding the magnet at the center, and you can see the lines that are being produced here. The hypertrochoid. And that's what that is, a hypertrochoid pattern. And that's what the lines do. That's what light does naturally. It naturally bends. You see? There's the Fibonacci sequence. Why is everything bending, 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 bending? The fingerprint. Everything is bending. Everything is a spiral, right? That's why. Because light propagates in a curved motion. It's never straight. There is no straight lines in an electric universe. There is no straight lines in an electric universe. Because light is not beginning nor ending. Again, it's a circuit. And that's what Tesla's plasma ball proved, was that light is a circuit. It's not traveling. It's not being admitted outside of itself. Light is the source itself, just like you. The center point. You are the source itself. So it's like referring to God as the light and saying, I can't see the light with the light. You can't see the light with the light because God is the light itself. You're trying to see what you call God through the light, and you're not realizing that what you call God itself is the very light bearing witness. So there is nothing for you to see as far as God. God is inside the sight itself. God is the light allowing sight. You can't see God. God is the sight itself, not separate to itself. That's why there's nothing to be seen. If you have had an ego death in psychedelics, there's nothing to be seen. You will wait for some marvelous form or some great being to reveal itself to you, and all you see is void, void, void. In any direction you look, there is void, nothingness. Because that is the source to every single thing, is this presence, that center point. That center point is simply a presence. And that presence is every single name that has birthed, is every single form that has taken shape. That presence is not human, but when it identifies as human, it must experience the destruction of this identity while still in this form, so that it can experience death before the leaving of this form. So back to my point. They pointed lights in the skies because they thought they would see it from the other side. This is all just proving concave Earth, right? Here is a model or a graph released all in German, mind you, and it shows a tree going through what's called the firmament. Remember, this was the ball of prima materia. This is what we call space, but it's not outer space, it's inner space, just like your human eye. So, this is where I'm going to get to my point now. What greatly created my following with this concave Earth movement, because again, I have, I forget how many, I have like 13,000, 14,000 followers, I don't remember exactly how much, I have 13, 14,000 some followers. Almost half of them came from this concave Earth model that I was preaching, that I was teaching about, and that I was sharing. And this is what I'm about to share is why I believe I got such a following. As I stated, there was one other person that was sharing information about concave Earth. But I had came along and started making graphs, started making pictures, and comparing them to ourselves, to the macrocosm, or the microcosm, I'm sorry. That's what you're supposed to do, is converge. Merge the macro with the micro, or the micro with the macro, so they're one and the same thing. Merge the inside with the outside, so they're one and the same thing. And that's essentially what I thought I was doing with the concave Earth. Again, when I was making these, I was telling people all is one. All is one, but I was stressing to them we're inside of this ball. But where my following began was I was comparing it to ourselves. Do you see how the human eye has the black spot in the center, and it looks like it's radiating out, creating a circle, a circumference? That goes back to your dot and circumference. The dot is source, and it radiates out light. It radiates from itself. And so we would call this dot our body, and the surrounding structure our matrix, our environment, our external world. But again, when the inside and outside become one and the same, where does the inside take place and where does the outside take place? The two become one and the same, which means there is no inside or outside at any point you are. You could be anywhere in here and you're still both inside and outside, because the inside is the outside and the outside is the inside. They're one and the same thing. But what I was doing was taking these graphs and comparing them to everything that we know. The clock, for example, the center point does not move. Everything revolves around the center point. It does not move. With this model, you have space and the sky and the stars and everything that rotates at the center. Just like a clock. The center point does not move from itself. So everything is revolving around that center. Everything is turning and going around the center, just like the clock, but the point does not move. And that's the greatest trick, is this point is metaphorically the point, the pineal gland inside of your head. You are the compass. The center of the universe is wherever your pineal gland is at. And that's why I said, it doesn't matter where you're at in the circumference, you are always the two as one. You're not inside or outside of anything. Because you are the compass, the point, the fixed point which does not move. You are looking around a circle, and you are determining what time it is, what day it is, what everything. You are the center point that does not move. You are the center of the universe. And here, I made a comparison with, this was Tesla's discovery, and this was Einstein's discovery. One was gravity and one was ether. And you'll see how I did this. Gravity has the object bending space-time, has a fabric called space-time that bends around the object, whereas the ether is responsible for that bending. You see, the gravity could never explain the bending, other than obviously an object with mass weighs more than the fabric of space-time, which is supposed to be like a tissue cloth, so they say. So it obviously bends it and weighs it down. But there's no explanation to why that happens. With the ether, you can explain why light is bending, because the propagation of light is not straight. Inside of a torus field, it acts as a circuit. It begins and ends in the same place, and it's always being bent around the torus field. So that explains your force. And again, ether is an out force. What we think to be gravity is an out force. It's not an in force. It's a pushing out force. And that's what the model is for here. Gravity is not pushing you out. It's pushing you in to the edge, into the edge. And that's why I said, again, if you weren't here for the video earlier, but this is all the ocean right here. The deeper you swim into the ocean, the greater the pressure gets. And if you swim too deep without a diving helmet on, your head will explode and your eyes will pop out of the sockets. Why? Because the ether force, the ether is so great, the pressure is pushing so great. And obviously, the lower you get, the greater the pressure is. So the deeper down you go, the more of that converging force there is, the more ether there is down there. And so you take this model of our universe. This is the universe that they have taught us in school. And so I applied this here because, again, this is very important. We have all planets, all things revolving around one fixed point. We just happen to have that point as the sun. So what I said was we were half right because, again, look at your human eye. That's what a fractal pattern is. It's a pattern that repeats itself from the micro into the macro and vice versa, from the macro into the micro. So if there is a reoccurring pattern here, there will be a reoccurring pattern there, and vice versa. If there is a reoccurring pattern here, there will be a reoccurring pattern here. So if my point is always at the center from my own being, this principle is going to be reflected in what I call the universe, because there is not two beings. There is not body and earth. That's a duality. You are the non-duality. No body, no earth. And so again, you see the very same thing. All these things are rotating around this fixed point. Everything revolves around the fixed point, source. Same with man. Man fits perfectly into the circumference starting from the center point, and so on, because again, we are the point itself. We are the center of the universe itself. Women are not birthing human beings. This is why we have never found a human origin, and we will never find a human origin. A human origin is a human starting point. Where is the beginning? Where's the first human that was birthed? And we will never find it, because no human has ever birthed here. No human has ever died here. Yes, we witness people shut their eyes and never open them again, but no human is dying in this process because we have never been human. That's why we can't find our beginning. We have to eventually realize that. It's just like Alice chasing the white rabbit. You will chase this white rabbit, you will chase a human origin unto forever, driving yourself insane. Until you realize there's no human being. Where is the human? We've been searching for hundreds of years and still no human origin. We can look at this form and label it a human. We can define this form with the word, but show me this human. Show me this being that has been telling this story for so long. It's no secret that we are the most unhappy species to walk this place. Why? we are still supporting the human dream. We are still obeying the human limitation. We are terrified of merging with artificial intelligence, but that is not the shift. The shift has already happened. You are the shift. The shift does not take place outside you. The shift takes place inside you when you realize you can't merge with something you already are. How can you become what you already are? That is the big shift in everybody that's yet taken place. When you realize, holy crap, I'm not merging with the machine. I'm already the machine. There is no physical merging that needs to take place. It's a mental merging. Why do you think we take the left hand and the right hand and join them at the center? This is not for fun. This is not just for spiritual purpose. This has a meaning. You take the left hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere of the brain, and you're joining them into a single unity in the median, in the middle. This realization takes place within you. There is no physical revolution that takes place, because that's not what a revolution is. There has never been a revolution without physical dominance, without people trying to kill other people. And it's because we're forgetting the true revolution. And the true revolution is not televised, is not a public event. You are the event. It has already happened. It's a matter of when you realize this, that the event will have taken place. But nobody else is going to experience the event when you do. It's already here. It's already happened. It's a matter of when you see it or not, because it's always right in front of you. What you are is always right in front of you, as is what you fear. And it's that fear that keeps us from facing ourselves, the self that's right in front of us the whole time. And that's why we get lost in the character, in the mind. That's why we get lost in the who and the where. Because if you transcend the mind, if you have an out-of-body experience, you will transcend the mind. And you will at last discover what our governments have known for centuries now. There is no physical body, and there is no physical earth. Now, they've shared enough evidence with us to tell us this, but again, this is our negligence. We don't pay attention. Or, just like the Freemasons, they've given you the damn information, but you neglect it. You turn it away. You're not ready for it. You don't want it. It's nonsense. Why? Because it does not fuel your dream. It does not support your dream in any way. What it will do is disrupt your dream. It will take you from your dream. It will disturb your comfortability of dreaming. That's why we turn these things away. That's why the Freemasons were turned away. That's why the Freemasons are now an esoteric group, a secret society. Look at what happens to people in today's society. When you think you have knowledge that can help other people, you are laughed at, ridiculed, shamed, slandered. Why would 100 years back be any different? It was the same then as it is now. Anytime someone thinks they have new information or life-changing information, they're going to be ridiculed and laughed at and by whoever they're sharing it with. I'm not saying by everyone. A few may resonate. But my point is you will be outcast. That's all these secret societies are. There is no evil behind any secret societies. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me for saying it. Because again, what's evil and what's good? You have the power to determine that, not me. Just like this. Was I inside the earth or outside the earth? Only I had the power to determine that. Was I inside or outside? And that's where you realize if something in me has the power to instantly make this inside or make this outside, damn, it can't be either one. It can't be inside or outside, because if it can change just like that, it's not the earth that's changing, it's yourself. Don't try and bend the spoon, that's impossible. Instead, only try and realize the truth. There is no spoon. Then you'll see that it's not the spoon bending, it's only yourself. Do not try and change the earth, that's impossible. Instead, only try and realize the truth. There is no earth. Then you'll see that it's not the earth that's changing, it's only yourself. And that alone is what led me into no earth at all. And this is what I'm going to share with people. I had to make a choice in this moment. Am I going to leave behind all the followers that I attained and leave behind all this notoriety? Because honestly, if I would have stayed in concave earth, I would probably be at 30,000 followers right now. The information I was putting out was new and had never been released before. Like I said, in the comparisons that I was releasing, never been put out before. So I knew if I stayed with this, I would increase my following. I would make a name for myself. I would seriously make some noise with this. But I had to choose. Am I here for the crowd, or am I here for myself? Like, what was the point of this whole search? And that's where I had to realize and be honest with myself. I'm not here for no crowd. I want to experience truth. I want the reality. I'm tired of faking it with myself. And what I mean by faking it was trying to gather all this information and memorize it and, have all this great knowledge, but you're still just as empty as before you had all the knowledge. The knowledge is not what you're looking for. And it's just like the new car, the new house, and anything else. You have to acquire that knowledge to realize you're just as empty. It's not going to change you. Only wisdom can change you. Knowledge will not change you. Only wisdom can transform you. Because wisdom comes with the experience. Knowledge is the knowing how without the experience. Wisdom comes with the experience. You've applied this knowledge and experienced this knowledge, therefore turning it into wisdom. But until then, knowledge is empty. It does not transform you. It does nothing for you. And that's what I was at. I was on a hamster wheel with myself, I thought. And so I said, I'm just tired of this. I'm tired of trying to prove this to the world that the earth is concave. Nobody's hearing me. Realistically, people were hearing me. I'd have 1,000 people on a live video. But as soon as my messages started changing, and I went from we're inside of an earth to there is no earth, my live videos went from 200 viewers steady to about 30 viewers. My comments went from about anywhere from 800 to 1,000 to 100 comments. My point is you have to remember to stay true to yourself. Remember why you started this. And remember, you can try and fool the whole world with what you're presenting, but you will never fool the presenter. And that's what honestly exhausted me to a point of just hitting a wall with this concave earth. And it was then that I started looking into psychedelics. And it was after my psychedelic experience that I understood what couldn't be spoken. I had seen the self which was no self at all. I had been in the greatest presence that has no words for it. So Who do I come back and share this with? Who do I share this presence with? Who do I share all this knowledge with? All this knowing? And that's where I created a YouTube channel, as an avenue for me to express my very confused and scared trips into the medicine of psychedelics. I was doing this myself, so there was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of fear, a lot of confusion. I didn't know if what I was experiencing was normal. So I created the YouTube channel. And again, the response that I got was just unbelievable, because my message was just solely, you are God, you are God, you are God, we are God, we're everything. But the longer I was able to, how do I say this, turn this knowledge into an actual lifestyle, into a being, the more my message started becoming, do nothing, be nothing. There is no earth, there is no body. And this is where my engagement started decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. And at first, honestly, it bothered me. It bothered me. Why aren't people tuning in? Why aren't people wanting to hear this? Why aren't people? And you have to remind yourself, this is not for the people. This is for your own growth. Everything I know now was from me speaking into that camera and using that YouTube channel as an avenue for me. And since I stayed true to myself, I have witnessed myself progress in the past year. And that's what your journey is all about, is witnessing your own growth and your own progression. If you're trying to just witness a number or a crowd increase or follow you or increase your following, I can assure you it's just like trying to build up that new car. Because I had told myself when I hit 10,000 followers, for me, it was just like buying that new car. When I hit 10,000 followers, I'll have made it. I'm a big name and I'll have done some big work around here. But then I crazily just very fast hit 10,000 followers. And you would think I would have been overjoyed, because that's what my goal was. 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. If I can just hit that point. But when I actually hit it, I felt more unsatisfied than before. I felt worse. I felt more alone. Felt more scared. Because I realized I wasn't staying true to myself. I wasn't honoring myself and acknowledging that I'm worth it. I'm worth the time. I'm worth the investment. And while I can sit up here and try and fool everybody with all this knowledge and all this compiled memory game nonsense, I can't fool myself. I can't fool the presenter, right? So I can present this immaculate, flawlessly. But afterwards, I'll have fooled all of you and not the presenter, which again, it's just stirring up a huge wave of depression. And like I said, this is just like, it's the same thing as if I can just get that new car, if I can just get that new house. This is why celebrities and so many who have money and wealth are sometimes the most unhappy, because that's what we do. If I can just get, and what you realize when you get it, when you acquire it, when you reach it, you feel the same as before you've gotten it. Because you're not addressing the root. You're putting a little filling on top of that root, right? But you're not dissecting this and getting to the root and pulling it out. You're slapping a little filling on top and saying, that's my new house, my new car, that's what I wanted to reach, and I'm good now. But your spirit just cries and begs for something so much more. And it's in that moment that you realize that whatever you were looking for, whether it was a crowd, a following, a relationship, a car, will not change you. And it's in that moment that I personally think, and from my own experience, I experienced the dark night of the soul. It was after I hit this wall of 10,000 followers, I was in a very dark place. The only thing I can refer it to is the dark night of the soul. I think I had survived off of loaves of bread for 2 weeks straight. I was just eating loaves of bread. I kid you not. I would wake up and my hands would be shaking because I was starving, hungry, but I could not eat. I was sick to my stomach day after day after day. Such a knot, such an unsettling feeling, such anxiety. And over nothing at all, nothing was going on. It's just, you've hit that point. You're slowly realizing what I was using to motivate me and pacify me is not what I was looking for. Now that I've reached it, I feel empty. I feel worse now that I've gotten it. And that's when the panic comes in, because that's what was getting us through before. If I could just get that, if I could just catch it. But then you catch it, and you don't know what to do with it. You don't know what to do with it. Or maybe you do for a few days, for a few weeks. But that enthusiasm wears off. That new feeling wears off. Just like in a relationship, that new feeling wears off. And I know I'm starting to get off topic here, but I'm just kind of flowing. I'm just flowing from the top of my head here, so I'm just allowing myself to speak and flow. But my point is spirituality is your rebirthing. And you have to realize this is not about other people. These people that you may hold as crutches to you were not present when you constructed your identity. And therefore, they will not be with you when you have to destruct this identity. Only you can walk through this. Only you can experience this and know what remains underneath. I can tell you the experience an infinite amount of times, but I can never give you the experience with the words. The words are to point you to the experience. So when we say words like revolution, this does not mean, hey, let's all go out and tear down our city and overthrow some system. It's realizing that the system we think to be external to us simply duplicates our internal brains. Why does every worldly system have two parties? Because it is duplicating your human brain, which is split down the middle, and what they're doing is making you pick one side or the other and put this side against the other. So when you're a Democrat and you're blaming the Republicans, all you're doing is saying, I am the left hemisphere of my brain and the right hemisphere sucks. It's wrong. It's incorrect. I'll never see it from their perspective. But all their perspective is the right side of your brain that you are at war with. You're at war with yourself, not with the worldly system. Again, why does the worldly system duplicate the human brain? Because we are at war with ourselves. We don't know who we are. We're looking for aliens. Alien means unknown. If you are unknown to yourself, would you recognize the unknown when you found it? Would you recognize the alien if it was staring you right in the face, if you are unknown to yourself? If you're unknown to yourself, how can you tell an unknown species from you? You don't even know who you are. So, okay, we can call this species alien, but the truest alien is you. You don't even know who you are. You're looking for other species to tell you who you are. You're looking for other species to give you guidance and remind you who you are. But all their message would be, I am you. And if we're not ready to let go of our human dream, we'll reject that and say, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're dumb. And that's where all validation comes from ourself. Everything we seek comes from within. We can literally be visited by another species today, and they could tell us, we are you. There is no human. You guys aren't human. There is no alien either. We're not alien, and you're not human. We're the same being. But if we were not ready to part ways with our human dream, we would deny this species and reject this species and tell them they don't know anything. So again, we must acknowledge, where is the actual validation, the confirmation coming from? It wouldn't be coming from another species. Again, even if we met them face to face, if they told us an answer that did not resonate with our identity, with our dream, we would turn it away. Why? Because you are what you seek. The only thing you're looking for validation for is from yourself. But you don't think you're enough. You've created a split, a separation. Higher self, lower self. And if you can just find this higher self, you'd be in tune or aligned or know what to do. How about merging these two selves together? So there isn't two. There can only be one. And in death, that's the great catch. You meet God, but God is met as one, not two. So when you meet God, and you expect him to talk back to you, there's no conversation because, again, expect one, not two. There's no dialogue. Hello, God, I'm here to meet you. How are you? Silence. Hello? God? Until that silence devours you. And what I'm speaking of is a psychedelic trip. When you have sat in that silence long enough and accepted your true face of silence, you have died. And you have realized in that moment of silence, I am no longer the name. I am no longer the form. But my presence is still here. And it's even here to report the death of myself. So if I'm reporting the death of myself, what has actually died here? And the longer you sit in that silence, the longer you will know yourself, the longer you will know your true face. And you will realize that you're not confined to a body. There is no body, and there is no earth. There is no inside, and there is no outside. There is no you, and there is no me. And I just posted a status about this yesterday. I think it was today, actually. Yeah, today. Forgive me. Today, about our ancestors. I forgot because I did so early this morning, but I posted a status this morning about our ancestors. Just basically asking, who did our ancestors look to for guidance and for reassurance before there were ancestors? And what I said was, the only secret that our ancestors knew, because we seem to think if we can just remember what the ancients have known, once again, everything will change. And we consider all their technology to be lost technology, but it's not lost. It's still here, it's still present, it's still now, just as our ancestors have not died. They are still here, they are still present, they are still now. But again, we're unknown to ourselves. We don't even know who we are. How could we possibly know our ancestors? But they laid out the blueprints for all of us. They left behind quotes such as, "Look within," such as, "I am not just you, I am in you, and I am you." I mean, they left behind quotes that literally spell out the answers for us, that they are here, they are us, we are them. They do not die, we do not die. We will transform into the next generation, which is still the self. They were in tune with nature because they knew that nature was a part of their being. The tree that we cut down today was the extension to our arms. The trees that we tear down today produce our oxygen. We need the trees to breathe. So what makes you think half of your identity, half of who you are, does not exist as that tree, in that tree? If there was no tree, you would die. You would not be able to breathe oxygen. So the indigenous people simply knew who they were. They saw themselves in the trees. They felt themselves in the winds. They heard themselves in the waters. They didn't pollute. They didn't compare. They didn't disgrace each other. No. They saw the divinity in everything, from the sound of water collapsing into itself to the wind blowing through the trees. They heard and felt themselves through everything. And everything was considered divine, beautiful, perfect. There wasn't a race that compared your possessions to my own possessions. If we're all literally the same person, given a different name and shell, okay? We're all the same person, given a different name and shell. Why would I need to compare my worth to your worth? We are literally the same person. So the only place worth can be established through is through our possessions. If I possess more than you, my worth has suddenly increased. And that's what we've done in our Western culture. If my car is a different brand than yours, a little more no pricey, then my worth just kind of increased more than yours, and that means I'm worth a lot more than you now. If my shirt right here happened to say Gucci or Fendi or Versace, that means I'm worth a little more than the average person around here, okay? Because we allow our possessions to possess us. We disown ourselves and own the possessions. And by disowning ourselves, I don't mean this. I mean the entirety. Because the moment you disown this, you will disown every reflection that looks like this. We've forgotten who we are, and so forgotten our ancestors. When I die, I won't go anywhere. I'll be present through the various forms that are still here and now. And if anyone were to turn on my videos after I've left this body, that would be the ultimate message, is you are listening to yourself. You have left this form you are listening to be in your form now. I had to transform into the Force so that the Force could transform into you. But make no mistake, what I am will never leave this place, because this place is a part of the One itself. And I am not person or place. I am the One itself. You are the One itself. Person and place are mental constructs of the mind. The person and the place are brought into reality through the mind. The mental is what makes everything real. But again, if matter is 99.999999% empty space, then what that tells you is that everything you're seeing and experiencing is a mental construct. It's empty. Inside, if you could see through everything, it would be empty. So what makes a bed, a chair, a TV, a solid physical bed, a solid physical chair, a solid physical TV? What makes these things absolute? Again, the mind, the mental, makes reality. By birthing words for every object, until this entire objective experience is now subjective. I have now birthed a word into all objects I know. And so a piece of my identity exists in every single object I have dispersed my mind into. Everything that I have ever seen in my life has a word, has a definition, has something I've birthed into it through my mind. And so when I die, it will be the retracting of this mind, the forgetting or the unknowing of everything that I've dispersed out into the world through my mind. Things that we would never question. Like obviously, a pencil is a pencil, right? A cup is a cup, and we can't debate this. These are things that we know undeniably, and we don't need to debate them any further. But again, this is a mental construct, and I'm not saying that this is only here because of the mind. What I'm saying is the mind is birthing this object as the word. And so what this object becomes is a subject, subjective. You give this a word, you give this a definition, you have now given this an absolute which you call reality, but reality is a mental construct. And the final frontier to escaping this reality is transcending the mind itself. The place where every single thing that you know has been sacredly stored and kept, including the most sacred one of them all, your identity. And through my experience with death, through my own experience, you lose every single thing you love first. Your identity comes last. And like I said, this is from my experience. So for instance, I lost track of day and night, slow pieces to my identity. My identity exists day by day, through day and night. You know, what time of day it is. I need to know this to know what I'm going to be doing. That's the first thing that left me when I had a near-death experience. Day and night, gone. I didn't know what time of day. There was no time, there was no day, there was no night, there was nothing. I didn't know this concept at all. It was not even a concept in my mind. I had no idea what day or night was. But then more and more pieces of your identity start being retracted. And for me, just before my identity was retracted, I saw my whole family standing before me. And one by one, they just dissolved into the air. And I panicked. I cried. I pleaded. I begged. Please bring them back, please. But then what was guiding me was letting me know, no, like this isn't even the final parting ways. You've still yet to part ways with the most sacred kept thought of your mind. And I was like, well, what could that be? I've just mourned the loss of my whole family. And finally, my identity came to the surface. Boom. Who you are doesn't even exist. And it was just a gut shot. Ooh, like, so I've just lost my whole family. I don't exist. I'm not here. And just, woo, just a whole gut shot to the ego. Because it's not what you expect. But then you have time to process and make something of this. And I can explain this whole experience with one simple quote from Rumi. You are not merely a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. That's what this is. That's what that realization is. You parting ways with your family and the most sacred kept thought, which is yourself, your own identity. You parting ways with this is you becoming the phoenix. You are literally destructing yourself in all the forms that you've ever dispersed into the world, destructing and dissolving them to ash, only to reconstruct them into something so much more pure and something that cannot be lost, something that cannot be changed, because it's universal and it's throughout everything. And that's why the phoenix is represented with spirituality. You are rebirthing yourself, and that is how you know your family. You know yourself. If you know yourself, all others disappear. There will be no other. Other represents separation. And if all is one, there must not be separation. There cannot be separation. So if you are still experiencing the loss of people you love or yourself, you have to make sure you part ways with that. Fully mourn it. Release it. Release it. Mourn it. Cry for it. Be sad. Feel the emotion. Purge the emotion. But accept it. Accept it. And after that acceptance has overridden you, you will be in the greatest and most purest presence that words cannot even explain for you. You can't put them to words. Because again, the presence is not contained to one shape or form. This presence is the omnipresence, all-pervading presence throughout everything. So if I truly know myself beyond form, I will know my family and know every single person, thing, being, place I love as myself. Love is the answer. And that's the whole explanation for this. Because at first I was taking it as God's a dirty joker. This is a trick, a dirty trick. We have to lose our family, lose ourselves, and nothing's real, and it just felt like a dirty game. But then you start to realize, well, damn though, this kind of hurt what I thought I was, but in accepting, okay, I'm not this, you're moving into the space of, okay, I'm not this, I'm this. I'm all this, baby. I'm all this. Eternal life. Forever. I don't need to hold on to or possess one life. I am life itself. The ego's terrified to not exist, to not be alive. When you find out you are the source to what you call life itself, you have transcended the concept of birthing and dying. You will never experience the birthing or death of yourself again. Why? Because you would recognize yourself the second time around. You would know. New form, same presence. New name, same presence. And this is why I say Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Allah, all these men that we think and speak of in past tense are still speaking through us right now in this very moment. The people like me who try sharing people's divinity, who try leading you to God through your own self, is precisely what Jesus was doing in his time. So again, what separates us? What makes us different? What makes me speak of Jesus in a past tense? Because again, we're birthing something into all objects that we have experienced or know. And what we're birthing into them is something that does not exist. It's a mental construct. We're birthing a person into Jesus. And so that person has left Jesus. Therefore, Jesus is no longer here. But again, your mind birthed the person into Jesus, into whoever you've loved and lost. Transcend the mind birthing this, and you will transcend the mind that must destruct this. And you will realize that what we call the moment, this presence now, is the source to every name that is ever spoken. Jesus is here now, And Jesus speaks through this very moment. And I'm only using Jesus' name because he's one of the most popular and notarized names of today. So it's a name that I can use that everyone's familiar with. Okay, so that's why I'm using the name Jesus. It's a name that's very popular and the most known name of religion. So the most people will be able to relate to what I'm saying. But my point is every single name is the very same presence. When someone shuts their eyes and can no longer open them again, we birth a word for that phenomenon. That's what I'm saying. We experience death as the word and the phenomenon we associate with it. So when someone closes their eyes and we know they're never opening them again, we have put that phenomenon into a word. And so we're not experiencing the loss of anyone. We're experiencing the loss of our mind. What the mind has birthed into this person or into this place is being changed, is being altered into something else, into a new form, or into the force. And we don't recognize that new form. We don't recognize that new force because, again, Jesus is the form, is the name, is whatever I've birthed into Jesus. So I would not recognize what I call Jesus through my mind, through a new form. No, I'd be still looking for this one here. I wouldn't recognize that someone who is just birthed and is a toddler right now, I wouldn't sit there and smile and go, oh, dang. Jesus hasn't gone anywhere. He's right here. He's right here the whole time. People would think you have lost your damn mind. Okay? But that's the actuality of it. This is the way our ancient ancestors saw each other. They couldn't be fooled by the names. They couldn't be fooled by the forms. They recognized themselves beyond all this because they had penetrated into their core. They knew who they were, and so they were aligned with the universe. They didn't even attempt to go against the universe because, again, would you stand in the mirror and punch yourself in the face thinking you would get some type of result? You wouldn't do that because it'd be a waste of time. What would you accomplish with that? Nothing. You'd be going against yourself. We still have yet to realize that's the actuality of it. The moment we keep going against nature and thinking that we can make nature submit to our will is no different than us going into a mirror and just repeatedly slamming our head against the wall and expecting our face to change. It's pointless. It doesn't do anything. And that's what all speakers are sharing words for, is so that these words can be pointers, signs, leading you to the experience. That's all these words represent, is the experience of that non-dual presence. So don't attempt to experience these words that people share with you. Allow the words to be pointers which point to the experience. Because remember, you will never experience anyone's words that they're sharing with you. They're sharing them with you to give you the way to that experience. That's all these words represent, is our way of sharing our experience. But I can't give you my experience. I can show you the path unto realizing that experience or having that experience, but I'll never be able to give you that. No one can give you that because you already have the truth. You already have that. You are the experience in itself, but you have yet to experience yourself as the experience, if that makes sense. And that's why we still go against nature. We have not experienced ourselves as the experience. We are still experiencing ourselves as a limited human being. And so we're trying to go against nature and make everything around here submit to our own dream. But that's what things like coronavirus and these big pandemics and events, that's what they do, is they come into our lives and they disturb our dream. We were very comfortable in our human dream before this coronavirus, and what this virus has done is greatly disturbed our dream. And we must realize that these disturbances are only going to increase. So you're not going to go back to the world before the coronavirus. Realize these disturbances, this uncomfortability is only going to increase. But this is what the spiritual community has been asking for online for the past 5 years, at least that I've been present. People have been asking and begging and saying they're ready for the next step. We're ready for the event. We're ready for the Great Awakening. Again, these words point to an experience that does not happen beyond you. The experience is within you. There is no Great Awakening that takes place outside of you. This word is to directly guide you into the experience so that you can awaken from within you. There is no awakening happening here. All these words are representing an internal occurrence. That's why all communion with God that's on record has happened within man, because man is God and God is man. That is how Enoch became Metatron. Enoch metaphorically realized himself beyond the human dream and instantly, in a split second, became Metatron, man becoming immortal. And that's why I love the quote from Alice in Wonderland when Alice asks the White Rabbit, how long is forever? And the White Rabbit says, sometimes just 1 second. Because that's all it takes for you to realize forever, eternity, eternal life, is knowing yourself. And knowing yourself can happen in the blink of an eye, in a second. And that's why I love that quote from Alice in Wonderland. How long is forever? Sometimes just 1 second. And that 1 second echoes for an eternity, meaning you'll never forget again. It's a point of no return. Once you have seen it, there is no unseeing it. There is no forgetting. So I think I've used up all my juice. I am mentally drained and physically drained for today. So I'm going to end this video. If you don't see the live button up here, then it's no longer live. But if you're here for the first time, I welcome you and thank you for your presence. And thank you to everyone who has been on here and engaged and helped me share this video. If this video does resonate with you, I appreciate it if you'd help me share it in any groups that you have, any like-minded individuals, anybody that you know is also seeking or looking for information. And if anyone has any questions or topics from this video or from this recording, please message me, let me know. I think that's about it. I'll see you again when I see you.